welcome to our second Learning Together at Trinity session. And thank you for joining us tonight. We're so excited to be here. Tonight we've got a special guest. We've got Mr. Danny McKenzie here. And for those of you who haven't met Danny yet, he's our STEM teacher. He's an all-round ICT expert. He's a learning enhancement teacher, a father of 2 teenagers, and he's been working with ICT within schools for over 15 years. So tonight he's going to be talking to us about such an important topic, our children's safety online. And he'll be sharing with us some important and easy to implement suggestions for you to do at home. Now, we really encourage you to interact with us tonight through this live session. So if you've got any questions or comments throughout the evening, please either use the chat box located beside this YouTube stream, or very exciting tonight, we have a text line as well. So you can send us a text message with your questions or comments to 0412 250 131. We really want to hear from you. If you're viewing this session after the event, you can still contact us. You can send us comments, feedback, you can send us questions. You'll just need to email Danny McKenzie those questions, and we're going to pop his email address up at the end of the evening, at the end of the presentation. So now I'd like to hand over to Danny to talk to us tonight. Thanks, Danny.
Thanks very much, Mel. Thanks very much. And hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in tonight. And for all those people who are tuning in after the evening as well too, I hope that we can share some things with you tonight that help you set up your home to be an eSmart, eSafe place. And also those Trinity parents who'd like to know what we do here at Trinity to do that on this campus. Okay, so in this session, I'm going to be focusing on 3 things. I'll talk a little bit about the kinds of things that we do on this campus and as a Peter 12 college to teach students how to stay safe and be eSmart. I've got some advice for you for your homes to put into place some safe, smart online practices, and some of the essential tips and the best online resources that I've come across so that you can take control of your child's technology use at home. So to begin with, at school we have a fantastic IT team here who work very hard behind the scenes to manage the college's IT use from Peter 12. We have hardware and software in place to keep on top of what the students do online and how they use their devices while on campus, both here on the Cotley campus and on the Ashmore campus. Here at the primary school, we have a number of technical solutions in place to ensure that we block, filter and monitor students' online use while on our school network. We have firewall level filtering for all web traffic. We use a product called Smoothwall to track devices on our network and block certain websites, and Google Safe Search is on by default. We are a Microsoft Office school, so all of our productivity apps, email, video conferencing and online file management is with Office 365. So this allows us to monitor all communication while students are using these tools. We have software that scans certain words and phrases, particularly to pick up any kind of bullying language. Reports are sent to the appropriate people for that as well too, so that we can keep on top of those things. These hardware and software solutions are important for us to control what students can and cannot do while on our network. Probably more importantly, it's widely accepted that hardware and software are not the complete solution. So the second part of our eSafety strategy does not rely on those IT solutions. It focuses on guiding students and teaching them how to be eSmart and how to behave safely online. All users on our network have signed and are subject to our Peter 12 eSmart policy. Our use of MyUnity and Seesaw allows us to manage a collaborative online platform in a safe way. So teachers, parents and students are the only participants. Online collaboration, sharing and commenting is managed in these safe, monitored online environments. Here on this campus, in Year 4, our first year of the one-to-one laptop program, and as part of the STEM curriculum, Year 4 students begin the year with an eSmart course to develop an awareness of what it takes to be a responsible digital citizen. The focus of this course is staying safe and being smart online. We further support our one-to-one program in Year 4 and 5 by controlling the device, software and settings of all of the laptops so that we can help students on our network and also when they're at home. Consistent messages like our Think poster and some of the Australian Government e-safety literature is on classroom walls. Our eSmart strategies are regularly reinforced with a consistent approach. If and when we notice a trend or a problem, we can address it in the appropriate year levels to ensure students stay aware of the ways they can use their devices safely. We'll just stop for a little bit right now, and if there are any questions at all, if you have any questions about IT use here at Trinity, how we manage with software and hardware, or how we educate students to develop those digital citizenship skills, I'd love to answer your questions.
Mr. Mackenzie, so if we're finding that the children aren't grasping some of those skills and maybe the teacher has identified that children are still struggling to understand, do you come in and do more sessions with them? Like what do you do to address that concern in the classroom?
Yeah, so definitely the STEM curriculum allows us to be flexible with our approach to that. And if we find that there is something happening, let's just say that there might be some inappropriate commenting happening, I can run some sessions in STEM, or I can come to the classroom and have a whole cohort discussion with the students.
Another question that's just come through. So if you mentioned that there's filtering and things happening and that there's notifications around emails and inappropriate use of language, do parents get notified if that kind of thing happens?
Yeah, so the IT department receives those notifications or flags. They are then passed on to the appropriate people in admin, and then those situations are dealt with just like any kind of behaviour situation or any kind of incident at school. So that if the incident warrants for parents to be contacted, then that happens just as if it was something that happened in the playground.
Great, thank you. So they're the questions we've got at the moment.
Yeah, very good. So if we move on to the next part, I've got a video for you by a gentleman called Brett Lee. Brett Lee was a police officer in Australia who spent a long time tracking predators online. So he's a very knowledgeable man, and got a video for you just to outline some of the things that you can be thinking about at home.
Brett Lee is a former Australian police officer who's put close to 100 paedophiles behind bars.
Child sex offenders go through 5 steps on the internet to commit an offence against a young person. They locate a victim online, they identify a potential victim, they gather that victim's information, they then groom that victim, and then they commit offences against that young person. It's very hard to gauge the numbers of people online who are either looking for or prepared to harm children online. How concerned should parents be? They should be concerned that there's people in the same environment as their children that are prepared to harm their children, but that shouldn't cause fear.
I wanted Brett Lee to look into the Ross family's online behaviour to see if they were acting safely.
That's always, I think, parents' biggest fear is, the whole grooming thing and all that.
Who are you talking to? What's going on?
I hope they're not a 45-year-old man, basically.
When our computer guy, Brett Lee, when he kind of has a look at their online footprint, what do you think you'll find?
I think, look, pictures, because they upload pictures galore. Selfie, more selfies.
After digitally stalking them, Brett Lee is ready to meet the Ross family. So everyone, this is Brett.
Good afternoon, don't tell me. Kennedy, Mason, Riley and Regan.
Wow.
Okay guys, I was given the task of seeing how much information I could find out about you, your family, your friends, and your life. I spent about half an hour just having a bit of a search, and I just did some searches that anybody in the world could do. I was able to find out what you may be surprised to know was a fair bit of information. I got everybody's names, I've got photographs of everybody, photos of the kids in the spa. I had your address, the ages of everybody, your phone number. I knew where and when you went on holiday. I felt like I already knew you guys.
Who gave away the most information in the family?
Do you want me to be honest?
Yeah, go on.
Mum gave away the most.
Oops, that was Michelle.
I'm a sharing kind of person.
What have they done that has protected them from kind of the bad people out there?
Probably the biggest thing I noticed with this family, the online activity seemed to be a family experience, whereby Kennedy and Mason were on your friends list. The information that I saw was appropriate. The privacy settings were in place, and that's quite common for teenagers now. 5-6 years ago, 95% of teenagers would have never even heard of privacy settings.
But there's one last bit of bad news for the Ross family. Brett thinks they should take the phones and computers out of the bedrooms.
When I was growing up, my world was very small. When I left school, I couldn't be bullied by those students. I went home to my room, to the sanctity of my room, the safest place I could ever be. Young people, when they go into their room now, it's a very private place. There's no one around that can help them. They're in what they believe probably is the most secure place they can be, but then others come in to their room via technology to expose them to inappropriate behaviour.
It's weird because it's a bit like if you were a parent and you knew your kids were in their room and all kinds of weird people could be looking in through the window and having conversations with them through the window, you would freak out and you would be in their room all the time. But they're literally doing that with devices.
It's exactly right. It's just our mindset. I think there's a lot of finger crossing going on out there where we're hoping our kids will get through okay. I've spoken to hundreds of child sex offenders on the internet, and one of the first things that they would ask me, nearly every single one, would be, where are you? Are you in your bedroom? Is the door closed? Predators need privacy, and the ultimate to privacy is a bedroom. So keeping technology out of the bedroom, I believe, is one of the biggest things a parent should be trying to achieve when it comes to their children. We as parents are the only line of defence between our children and every single thing that adult world has to offer, and every single person.
So that's a powerful clip. I hope hearing from someone like Brett Lee, who has that experience of investigating online predators, will have you asking, what can I do at home to protect my children online? So I'm a parent of teenagers. My son is in year 11 and my daughter is in year 8. So I've been dealing with the same things at home that you are currently worried about. I'd like to share with you some of the best advice I've been given, some of the most important things that I've done that have worked, and where you can go to get some more information if you need to. So to begin with, it's important to understand the two different ways we connect to the internet. This is essential for you to understand. If you have a fixed broadband home connection, you will have a modem that sends out a Wi-Fi signal that your home device can connect to. If you have a mobile device with a SIM card, this device does not need the home Wi-Fi. It uses mobile data connection. So if you start investigating home parental controls, be aware that the restrictions you place on your fixed broadband will not stop your child accessing content on their mobile device. So the best advice I can give you, if you want to find out what you can do at home to block, filter, or monitor your child's online use with hardware or software, is to first of all contact your service provider. Quite often service providers have in place things that you can activate or turn on for free, or just for a small extra fee, you can put things in place through them. If you're looking to purchase a more comprehensive solution, I recommend that you go online. There's not one solution that I would recommend, or as a school we would recommend. But if you go online and have a little bit of a look, I've put up a few searches that would certainly work for you, like family-friendly filters. Making sure that you then check the reviews, have a chat to other people that might have already put these sort of things in place, and get informed yourself. 3 that I would recommend: if you have Microsoft devices, Microsoft Family is very highly reviewed. If you have Apple devices, OS X parental controls are something that are in the settings that you can turn on Macs and on iPads and on iPhones. Or Google Family Link is something that I have read some very favourable reviews on as well too. So those sorts of things are very worthwhile. Later on, I'm going to talk to you about a website that has a lot more information about these sorts of things if you're interested. Just before I go on to the next part, if there are any questions at all, if anybody has any any questions about wanting any extra information about some of the things that I've spoken about so far, please send those through to us, and I'll be happy to stop at any time and answer those questions. I'll move on. I personally haven't had to put in place any of those things that I just talked about, the software and the hardware. I haven't had to do any blocking or filtering or monitoring in my home. But my 2 kids have been pretty easy to deal with compared to, I know, some of the stories that I have heard from other family, friends and friends. So my wife and I have had success concentrating on these 3 things, and I really highly recommend that before you start spending any money on software or going down the path of blocking everything, that you give these 3 things a go. So first of all, understanding your child's current use. So talk to your child about what they do. They spend time online, so why don't you spend some time with them? Do some of the things that they like to do and talk to them about it. If you see that they're making some choices that aren't completely eSmart because they may not really know what they're doing, that's a really great opportunity for you to talk to them about it in a supportive role rather than as a police person. So I like to think about it like this. We don't stop our children from crossing the road because it's dangerous. We know roads are dangerous. We know that cars can be lethal. But we also don't just let them work it out for themselves. We do it with them until they're ready to do it alone. I think it's important that we teach our young children how to navigate the online world in the same way. The second thing, I think this is really important. Be very strict about the rules you think are important. Make it black and white. Stay in control of this and don't be afraid to dish out consequences. Remove devices, remove access to the internet if you feel like your child's doing some things that you've negotiated with them as things that just don't happen in the home. The second thing, probably the most challenging thing, as your child becomes a teenager, is to maintain a relationship with them that keeps the door open for them to talk to you. So they will make mistakes. So they'll see things online, they'll be spoken to online by people that they maybe don't know, they'll get scared, they'll be confronted. So you need to make yourself that person that they will talk to about that. So make sure that you are accessible when they need you. One of the great posters that we've developed here at Trinity is the 3 I's, or the I3. So staying informed, keeping technology in view, and remain interested in what's going on. I think there are 3 essential rules in my house that have really set us up for success. So number 1, no internet connected devices in bedrooms. You heard Brett Lee say that as well too. So for many, many years, that's been something that's been the number 1 most essential thing. I think that's really, really important, because once you put a connected device in a room where the door closes, when you go to bed, you assume your child's asleep. When you wake up in the morning, you might assume that you're waking them up, but you just don't know what they've been doing after hours.
Danny, can I just ask a question there? So if you've got a child that's saying that they need that peace and quiet and they want to do their homework and do it in their bedroom, sitting at their desk with their device, is that okay?
And I think children will say that because they feel like that's their room and they should be allowed to do those things in the room. But the flip side of that is that you're putting your child at risk, and it's not worth it. You can find somewhere else in your house for them to feel that way, to feel like they can get their own space, and probably most importantly then that the screen is out in view so that you can walk past that screen. So sitting on a couch right in the corner of a room is not a great place to be, because kids can just switch very, very quickly when you start approaching them. We notice that in the classroom as well too, and that's something that I do in my lessons when the students are on their laptops or on iPads, is that I don't allow anyone to sit in the corner. I need to be able to walk around all the time so that I know what they're doing. Now, at home, it's even more critical because you just don't know what they're on. They might be telling you that they're doing all the right things. You might assume that they are, but as soon as you let something get hidden physically, then you're setting yourself up there. Yeah. So I would say don't fall for that one, and find another place in your house where you can tick the boxes where the child can have that space. Yeah. I think the next thing is keeping track of screen time. Right from a very young age, my kids knew TV, movies, gaming, whatever it was on a screen was just called screen time. We just piled it all up as screen time. And so we gave the kids a certain number of hours of screen time. We limited it very much during the week. I know that my kids are still a bit scarred by that, and they still are to this day. They think we are very, very strict, but I just think it's really, really essential. I personally fall into the trap of losing myself to a Netflix series, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 hours of screen time has gone, and my brain's a little bit mush. And so there are a lot of reasons to keep an eye on screen time and teach your child to be aware of how much screen time that they've had. So, yeah. The next thing is probably the most challenging one, and you have to start doing it from a fairly young age, and that's to take control of the accounts, and particularly the accounts that are connected to online chat that your child's involved in. So things like Minecraft, things like Roblox, certainly gaming platforms that our students use. If they've set up that account themselves and you don't have access to it, if you can't check it, if you can't change the password, if they're breaking some rules, if you don't have control of that as a parent, you don't know what's going on in that space. And students could be chatting to people that they don't know in real life, which is quite a scary thing. So I would say that any apps that they have that require a username and password, any gaming that requires usernames and passwords, that you've actually set that up with them. Keep a record of their usernames and passwords and check it regularly.
What about TikTok, Mr. Mackenzie?
So I'm just about...
you're just about...
I'll just move on to the next slide now, because
Yes.
I really, really have some very, very strong opinions about this. And having had an experience with ICT students from prep right through to year 12, I really have just a black and white opinion on this one. And the students that we have here at Trinity Primary School are up to 10, maybe 11 years old. And things like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and things like that it's just not for them. It's just as simple as that. These social networking websites have at least a 13-year minimum age. And the reason for that is that the social networking websites, they are legally bound to do a lot more to provide a safe environment for a person who's under 13 years of age, and they're not prepared to do that. So they have basically set themselves up so that they're not liable for anything that happens to people who are under the age of 13. So you're throwing your child into an online environment where they're not protected if you help them to have access to it before that age. And I think that's really, really important. TikTok's a really scary one these days. If you've had anything to do with it, if there's any older siblings or cousins who have spent way too many hours on TikTok, I think that's a really, really dangerous one for our young people.
So, Mr. Mackenzie, I've got a question about that. So, I've put restrictions and private settings. So, I've got TikTok, but
Yep.
I've put the restrictions and the private settings on for my child. Is that okay?
I would say no. And one of the things that I've read about and heard about with TikTok is that it's very, very easy to uninstall and reinstall the app. It's very, very easy for kids to change those settings, and once they're on TikTok, they are motivated to use TikTok the way it's been designed, which is a very, very social platform, very much an open platform, and they will want to use it that way. They might tell you that they're not, but the chances are that they are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Something else that we use here at Trinity is we try to get the kids to understand that there's the me, we, see side of online use. So we use applications that are on a device. Students save files, and that's very much for them to see only. We share with email, we share on Seesaw, we share on MyUnity, but you choose who you're sharing that with. Unless you know how to navigate every single social network that you have signed up to, you're potentially putting your personal information, your images out for anyone to see. And we saw that in the video with Brett Lee. He was able to access information about that family that I'm sure that family was unaware that they were putting online. It's very, very difficult to close those sort of things down. I think with the students at the primary school, I think Minecraft, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube and Roblox, those would be the ones that I hear students use. And when I talk to Year 4 students, they're the kinds of websites and games that they are currently using. So if you're not aware of those, I think you need to be. I think you need to find out what they are and what your child is doing on them, so you can get informed about it.
So is there any way we can go to find out this information? Like, how do we do this as a parent? There's so many apps and they come and they go. Where do we find this information?
Thanks, Mel. That's a great segue. My next slide. I've got 2 websites I'd like to share with you that I think should be on your radar. We're very lucky here in Australia. We've got a fantastic eSafety Commissioner website called esafety.gov.au. If you go on there, it's very easy to navigate. You get the search functionality is very, very good. I would say that the esafety.gov.au website is very good for you to get knowledgeable about setting up your home to be eSafe, finding out what's out there that you need to be thinking about and some of your options for blocking and filtering and monitoring, or developing that relationship and educating your child. Some really, really great stuff online there. Something that I've used probably more than esafety.gov is Common Sense Media. So Common Sense Media is similar to the eSafety website, but it's an American website. There's a lot of support for families. There's a lot of really good advice for families, but I think the strength of Common Sense Media is the honest reviews on movies, TV shows, apps, games, that you can access very, very easily. So they'll give you a real heads up on the kind of content that that the kids will see if they watch a movie or play a game, the kind of language that's involved and the age rating. I can't remember how many times I've used this site when talking to my son about the suitability of a new game, to the point that when he wanted to buy a game, he would bring me the Common Sense Media review, because he knew I wouldn't even talk about it unless it got a favourable review on there. So I highly recommend Common Sense Media if you are unsure about the suitability of any kind of media, game or app that you are thinking about giving your child access to. And finally, something that's very easy to do and something that I highly value here on this campus is taking control of search. The students will go to a browser. It might be Edge, it might be Firefox, it might be Chrome, and they'll search for where they want to go. So if you can have some level of control over that, if you can filter out some of the things that just they can happen along to, then that probably would be the first step that I would take for the blocking, filtering, monitoring kind of option. So you can turn on Google Safe Search. Unfortunately, Google changes its settings all the time, so I can't give you one way to turn that on. But if you just do a search in Google for how to turn Safe Search on, there'll be a video, there'll be a set of 3 instructions, and it's very, very simple to do. Something that we recommend here at school is using DuckDuckGo. So DuckDuckGo basically uses a modified Google search, and it's a complete kid-friendly safe search out of the box. So if you just go to DuckDuckGo rather than Google, it's going to give you some really good results, but it's going to filter out all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think setting yourself up at home so that you're knowledgeable about what your child does, so that you have some clear rules in place, and so that you continue to build a positive relationship with your child, so that in case something happens, you're the person that they turn to. I think that they are some really important things. The number one rule for us has always been no internet connected devices in bedrooms. That's just been a black and white no-brainer. And my son's 16, and that's still the case. So yeah, there are things that you can do to educate your child so that they can grow and learn and they can use the internet, but they can get eSmart and they can stay eSafe. So if there are any questions at all, I can take some more questions.
I've just got one more here, Danny, just before we wrap up.
Yep.
So should I be checking my child's device? And if so, how often should I be doing that, and what should I be looking for?
Yeah, so definitely you should be. Depending on, like, every child's different and every family situation is different. And how you approach this is probably connected to your relationship with your child as well too. So you might be going through a difficult time with your child, and it might be a little bit more on the police side, where you insist that you have access to that device and you take a look at it. Or it might be sitting down and having a chat to them on a Saturday afternoon or something, and show me what you're doing. And you might have the kind of relationship where they do talk to you about that. But I recommend that you do it regularly. I think walking around your house while your child is on a device is very important. If you have one end of the house that's your area and another end of the house that's the child's area, you're missing an opportunity to see what they're doing. A big red flag should come up if you walk towards your child on a device and you see them swipe on an iPad, or you see them quickly change what they're doing. And then if you confront them and say, can I take a look at what they're doing? And if they're a bit cagey, they're definitely doing something that they know that you don't want them to do. If you check your child's browser history and the browser history has been cleared, they've learnt how to do that for a reason. You don't do that unless you're hiding something. So that's a conversation that needs to be had.
What about the private mode and incognito?
Yeah, so this is
How
where
do we monitor that?
Look, it can just get really challenging, and this is where hardware and software blocking and filtering isn't the way that I feel we can rely on. This is where that relationship, this is where the education is so important, because there are VPNs, there's hidden browsers that you may not know that they're using. There's so many ways that a young person can hide what they're doing online. So that's the really, really challenging and scary part of us as parents managing this space, and why it's so important to keep that relationship with your child, why it's so important to give them some trust, so that they step up and that they actually meet your expectations, I suppose. But also they will make mistakes. My kids have made mistakes. My wife and I have had to sit down and have some really confronting conversations with our kids, but we were so glad that we were able to do that we didn't find out from the police or from the school that something was happening, that, we were the people that found out about it or that they came to. Yeah.
Thanks, Danny.
Yep.
Okay, so we might wrap up our evening there. Huge thank you to you, Danny, for joining us tonight and sharing your expertise, both as, your expertise around ICT, but also just as a parent of two teenagers as well. And thank you for joining us tonight for our second Learning Together at Trinity session. And just remember, if you do have any feedback, if you're watching this later on and you'd like to ask a question of Danny, feel free to email him, and his email address is up on the screen. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to sharing our next session with you later on. Thank you.